The security camera caught everything. At exactly 4:52 p.m. on March 15, 2019, two figures in dark hoodies and athletic gear sprinted across the manicured lawn of a Mediterranean-style mansion in Paradise Valley, Scottsdale, Arizona. They moved with purpose, not panic. One clutched something against his chest, something that glinted briefly in the late afternoon sun. A knife. They disappeared around the corner, heading toward the back where the infinity pool sparkled, where Alessandro Romano sat in his favorite teak chair with a glass of bourbon and a Monte Cristo cigar, completely unaware that he had less than 3 minutes to live. 3 miles away, in a Starbucks parking lot, Vivienne Romano sat in her white Mercedes SUV, her phone propped against the steering wheel. On the screen, a live feed from her home security system showed every angle of her property. She watched the two figures move across her yard. She watched them approach the back patio. She didn't call 911. She didn't text her husband to warn him. She simply watched, her perfectly manicured fingers steady on the phone, her expression blank behind her Chanel sunglasses. And then, at 4:53 p.m., Alessandro Romano's life ended in a fury of violence that would shock even seasoned homicide detectives. Alessandro Romano arrived in America from Argentina in 1989 with $300 in his pocket and an impossible dream. He was 22 years old, spoke broken English, and had nothing but determination. He started as a day laborer on construction sites, spending 12-hour days in the brutal Arizona sun. Within 5 years, he'd bought his first property, a rundown duplex he renovated himself. He sold it for a modest profit and bought 2 more. By 2010, Alessandro owned a luxury real estate development company, building upscale properties that revitalized struggling neighborhoods. He established a foundation providing interest-free loans to immigrant entrepreneurs. He mentored young developers, sharing his knowledge freely. His employees loved him. His competitors respected him. His 2 teenage sons, Cameron and Jordan, worshipped him. And his wife, Vivienne? Well, Vivienne had other plans. Alessandro met Vivienne Rodriguez at a fundraiser in 1997. She was 21, stunning, ambitious. They married 6 months later. Vivienne gave birth to Cameron in 1998, Jordan in 2001, and settled into the role of wealthy developer's wife with apparent ease. For years, their marriage seemed perfect. They took vacations to Cabo and Aspen. They hosted dinner parties where Phoenix's elite mingled in their Paradise Valley estate. From the outside, the Romanos had everything. But inside, Vivienne was suffocating. By 2017, after 20 years of marriage, Vivienne felt invisible. Alessandro was consumed with his latest project. The boys were teenagers, wrapped up in their own worlds. Vivienne, at 43, felt like she was fading. She looked in the mirror and saw her youth slipping away, her life becoming a cliché of wealthy suburban malaise. Then, in January 2018, Vivienne joined Phoenix Elite Fitness. It was one of those boutique gyms that catered to the affluent. Vivienne started going 3 times a week, desperate to reclaim something she felt she'd lost. And that's where she met Mitchell Crane. Mitchell was 55 but looked 45, all lean muscle and silver fox charm. He was a personal trainer, a former Marine who'd reinvented himself as a fitness guru for Scottsdale's elite. He had that dangerous combination of physical attractiveness and intense focus that made his clients feel like they were the only person in the world. Women loved him. Men wanted to be him. And Mitchell knew exactly how to leverage that. What Vivienne didn't know was that Mitchell Crane was a registered sex offender. In 1997, he'd been convicted of lewd acts with his 16-year-old stepdaughter. He served 8 years in Arizona State Prison. By the time he met Vivienne, Mitchell had perfected his predatory techniques. And when Vivienne walked into Phoenix Elite Fitness that January morning, Mitchell saw exactly what he was looking for. A beautiful, wealthy, deeply unhappy woman desperate to feel alive again. Their affair started slowly. Training sessions, coffee after workouts, Mitchell making Vivienne feel heard in a way Alessandro never did anymore. By February, they were sleeping together. By March, Vivienne was completely hooked. Mitchell had become her everything. She thought about him constantly. She lied to Alessandro about where she was going, what she was doing, who she was with. But Mitchell wanted more than just an affair. Mitchell wanted everything. In April 2018, Mitchell suggested Vivienne download Signal, an encrypted messaging app. Soon, nearly half of Vivienne's communications were with Mitchell. Vivienne's friend, Melissa Patterson, noticed the change. Over lunch in November 2018, Melissa confronted Vivienne about the affair. "Diana, are you having an affair?" Melissa asked. "Who is he?" Vivienne walked out, leaving Melissa worried. Melissa called Alessandro that evening, warning him. Alessandro laughed it off. "Vivienne and I are fine. I trust her completely." That trust would cost him his life. By December 2018, Mitchell's interest in Vivienne had evolved into something darker. He started talking about their future together, about how Alessandro was the only thing standing between them and happiness. "Leave him," Mitchell said one afternoon. "You deserve better." Vivienne sighed. "It's not that simple. If I divorce Alessandro, I'll get something, but not enough. Not what I'm entitled to after 20 years. Mitchell was quiet for a long moment. "What if you didn't have to divorce him? What if there was another way? Alessandro has life insurance, doesn't he?" Vivienne's heart began to race. Yes, 2.3 million. But Mitchell, if something happened to Alessandro, an accident, a robbery gone wrong, you'd be taken care of, and we could finally be together. Vivienne should have run, but she didn't. Instead, she let Mitchell's words take root, let the fantasy of a life without Alessandro begin to seem inevitable. Over the next 2 months, the plan took shape. Mitchell bought GPS tracking devices, paying cash. In January 2019, he attached one to Alessandro's Range Rover. He could now track Alessandro's movements in real time, learning his patterns. He learned that Alessandro spent every Friday afternoon from 4 to 5:30 on the back patio, relaxing with a cigar and bourbon. Mitchell also recruited help. Brandon Hayes had been Mitchell's friend since their Marine days. Brandon was 47, working as a corrections officer in Tucson, divorced twice, perpetually broke. When Mitchell called him in February asking if he wanted to make easy money, Brandon said yes. Mitchell flew Brandon to Phoenix on March 13th, 2 days before the murder. That evening, Vivienne came to Mitchell's apartment. Brandon was there, and Vivienne gave both men a tour of her own home. She showed them every room, every exit, every security camera. She spent extra time on the back patio, pointing out where Alessandro liked to sit, how he faced the pool with his back to the house, how he wore noise-canceling headphones. "He won't even hear you coming," Vivienne said. Later, Mitchell told Brandon that Alessandro was abusive, that they were just going to scare him. Brandon wanted to believe his friend, so he pushed down his doubts and agreed to help. The first attempt came on March 14th. Vivienne texted Mitchell that Alessandro was on the patio, but when Brandon saw Mitchell pull a 7-inch hunting knife from his jacket, Brandon froze. "What the fuck, Mitchell? You said we were just going to scare him!" Brandon turned and walked away. That night, Vivienne called Mitchell frantic. "What happened? Why didn't you do it?" "Brandon got cold feet," Mitchell said. "But don't worry, baby. Tomorrow. I promise you by tomorrow night, you'll be free." March 15th, 2019 dawned clear and hot. Alessandro had meetings scheduled, a productive Friday ahead. At breakfast, he told Cameron about a scholarship opportunity he'd found for a refugee student. Alessandro was always doing things like that, always thinking about how to help people. At 3:30 p.m., Vivienne told Alessandro she was going to Starbucks. Alessandro barely looked up. "Have fun," he said absently. Vivienne drove toward Scottsdale Road, but instead of going inside, she parked and opened the security app on her phone. She could see Alessandro walk onto the patio at 4:15, exactly on schedule. At 4:20, Vivienne sent a text to Mitchell. One word: clear. Mitchell had spent the previous night convincing Brandon they had to go through with it, promising him $50,000 from the insurance settlement. Brandon, desperate and foolish, had agreed. They parked 2 blocks from the Romano house and walked, dressed in dark hoodies, looking like joggers. At 4:51, they reached the front door. Mitchell tried the handle, and it turned. Vivienne had left it unlocked, just as she'd promised. They moved through the house toward the patio. Through the French doors, they could see Alessandro, his back to them, head nodding to jazz through his headphones. Mitchell pulled the hunting knife from his jacket. Brandon's stomach churned. "Mitchell, man, we don't have to—" But Mitchell was already moving. He crossed the patio in 4 long strides. Alessandro never heard him coming. Mitchell grabbed Alessandro by the hair, yanked his head back, and drove the knife into Alessandro's neck. Blood exploded outward. Alessandro's hands came up, trying to defend himself, making terrible gurgling sounds as blood filled his throat. Brandon stood frozen in the doorway, horror washing over him. This wasn't what Mitchell had said. This was murder, brutal and real. Alessandro fought. Despite the wound, despite the blood loss, he fought. He was strong from years of physical labor. He managed to knock Mitchell back, managed to get to his feet, staggering. But Mitchell didn't give him the chance. He lunged forward and stabbed Alessandro again, then again, 17 times in total, 17 savage wounds. The knife slipped during one thrust, cutting deep into Mitchell's left palm. He screamed and dropped the knife, but the damage was done. Alessandro Romano collapsed onto the patio, blood pooling around him, reflecting the afternoon sun like a terrible mirror. Mitchell grabbed Brandon. "His keys! Get his keys!" Brandon, moving on autopilot, rifled through Alessandro's pockets and found the Range Rover keys. They ran through the house and sped away in the Range Rover. 7 miles later, at 5:18 p.m., they abandoned the vehicle in a strip mall parking lot. Mitchell's blood was everywhere inside the car. That blood would be his undoing. At 5:22 p.m., Vivienne Romano pulled into her driveway. She'd watched the entire attack on her phone, watched her husband die in real time on her security cameras. She'd sat in that Starbucks parking lot watching as Mitchell and Brandon entered her house, watching the violent struggle. She'd watched Alessandro fall, and then she'd deleted the Signal app, cleared her browser history, and driven home to play the role of her life. Cameron Romano arrived home at 5:47 p.m. after lacrosse practice. He walked into the house through the front door. The house was quiet. Too quiet. "Dad?" Cameron called out. No answer. He walked through the kitchen, noticed the French doors were open, stepped onto the patio, and stopped. His father lay in a massive pool of blood, his eyes open and empty, his chest torn open. Cameron dropped his gear bag. His legs gave out. He knelt beside his father's body and screamed. Cameron called 911. "My dad, there's blood everywhere. Please, please send help. Oh God, please." Paramedics arrived at 5:53 p.m. Alessandro Romano was pronounced dead at the scene at 6:04 p.m. Detective Rachel Torres arrived at 6:20 p.m. Even she was struck by the brutality, the sheer amount of blood, the number of wounds, the obvious rage. This wasn't a simple robbery. This was personal. Vivienne arrived home at 6:35 p.m. with Melissa Patterson. When Vivienne saw the police cars, she began to wail. "No! No! What happened? Where's my husband?" Detective Torres met her in the driveway. "Mrs. Romano, I'm very sorry. Your husband has been killed. It appears to be a home invasion." Vivienne collapsed to her knees, screaming. Cameron came running out and wrapped his arms around his mother, both sobbing. Melissa stood to the side, a terrible suspicion already forming. That night, at 11:47 p.m., Vivienne called her insurance agent and asked, "How long does it take to receive a life insurance payout after a spouse dies?" Detective Torres learned about this call 3 days later and knew immediately she wasn't investigating a home invasion. She was investigating a murder for hire, and the person who'd hired the killers was the victim's wife. 3 days after the murder, the Romano family held a memorial service. Over 300 people attended. Cameron gave a eulogy. "My dad was my hero. Someone murdered him in our own home. I won't rest until justice is served." Vivienne sat in the front row, crying throughout the service. She kept saying one phrase over and over, "I'm not a wife anymore. I'm nobody's wife anymore." Melissa sat 3 rows back, watching her friend's performance. And then she saw him, a man, mid-50s, athletic build, silver hair, standing at the back. He wasn't dressed for a funeral. and he had a bandage wrapped around his left hand. Melissa watched him watching Vivienne, and the look on his face was possessive, intimate. Melissa took out her phone and snapped a picture. Melissa went straight to Detective Torres. "I think you need to see this. That bandage on his hand. Doesn't that seem suspicious?" Within 48 hours, facial recognition identified the man as Mitchell Crane, registered sex offender. The blood in Alessandro's Range Rover matched Mitchell's DNA. But before arresting him, Detective Torres put Mitchell under surveillance. She wanted to understand the whole conspiracy. What she discovered shocked even her. Mitchell and Vivienne didn't hide their relationship after Alessandro's death. They were seen together at restaurants, hotels, Mitchell's apartment. Investigators with warrants accessed their encrypted communications. The messages revealed everything: the planning, the GPS trackers, the insurance motive, the arrangement to pay Brandon. "I love you so much," Vivienne wrote. "I can't wait until we can be together openly. Until I can be Mrs. Crane." "Soon, baby," Mitchell replied. "The insurance money will come through soon, and then we can start our real life." On April 8, 2019, Vivienne and Mitchell were arrested during a traffic stop. As officers approached, Vivienne turned to Mitchell and said, "Remember what we talked about? You were obsessed with me. I didn't know anything. Just stick to that." The conversation was being recorded. That statement would prove devastating at trial. Brandon Hayes was arrested 2 days later. When shown the evidence, Brandon broke immediately. He told them everything: how Mitchell recruited him with lies about protecting an abused woman, how they'd done reconnaissance, how the first attempt failed, how he'd watched Mitchell stab Alessandro 17 times. "I never wanted anyone to die," Brandon said, tears streaming. "Mitchell told me we were just going to scare the guy. I didn't know what he was planning, but when it happened, I froze. I should have stopped him. Now a good man is dead because of me." Brandon agreed to testify in exchange for a reduced sentence. The trial began in October 2019. Prosecutor Elena Martinez laid out the evidence piece by piece: GPS trackers, jailhouse recordings, phone records, security system upgrades that gave Vivienne remote viewing capabilities. "This is not a case about an obsessed lover who acted alone," Martinez said in her opening statement. "This is a case about a cold, calculated conspiracy. Vivienne Romano authored her husband's murder. She planned every detail. She left the door unlocked. She sent the signal when Alessandro was vulnerable. She watched on her phone as he was butchered. And then she came home and pretended to grieve, all while thinking about the $2.3 million she would collect." When Brandon took the stand, he described in excruciating detail how they'd planned the murder, how Vivienne had given them a tour of her house. Vivienne knew everything. She picked the day. She left the house at the exact right time. She left the door unlocked. She sent the text telling Mitchell to go ahead. She watched it happen on her phone. This was her plan from the beginning. Then Mitchell took the stand in Vivienne's defense, testifying he'd acted alone out of obsession. But under cross-examination, Martinez destroyed his credibility, showing message after message where he and Vivienne discussed the murder, planned the details, talked about their future with the insurance money. The most devastating testimony came from Cameron Romano. At 17, Cameron described finding his father's body, the blood, the wounds, the terrible stillness. Then he described his mother's behavior. She asked about the insurance money the same night Dad died. Every day after, "When will the money come?" She didn't cry when we were alone. She only cried when other people were watching. Cameron looked directly at his mother. "I want to know why. Why wasn't our family enough? He loved you. He gave you everything. And you killed him. You killed my dad for money, and some guy you barely knew." Vivienne looked away, unable to meet her son's eyes. The jury deliberated for 11 hours over 4 days. On February 14, 2020, Valentine's Day, they returned with their verdict. In the case of the state of Arizona versus Vivienne Romano on the count of first-degree murder, we the jury find the defendant guilty. Cameron and Jordan sat stone-faced, holding hands, watching their mother's face crumble. Guilty on all counts: conspiracy to commit murder, murder for financial gain, lying in wait. Mitchell Crane pleaded no contest and received life without parole. Brandon Hayes received 18 years to life, eligible for parole in 2037. At Vivienne's sentencing hearing, Cameron walked to the witness stand with Alessandro's Patek Philippe watch on his wrist. "My mom took everything from us. She didn't just kill my dad, she killed our family. Jordan and I have to live knowing that our mother watched our father die, that she planned it, that she chose money over us, over dad, over everything." Judge Patricia Morrison addressed Vivienne directly. "What you did ranks among the worst I've seen. You violated every trust, every sacred bond. You orchestrated the brutal murder of a good man for money and lust. You watched him die on camera and felt no remorse. The sentence? Life in prison, without the possibility of parole." In the months that followed, Vivienne and Mitchell tried to maintain their relationship from prison. But reality set in. They were in different prisons, hundreds of miles apart. Their calls were monitored, their letters read by guards. A year after sentencing, Vivienne stopped writing to Mitchell. She'd realized their relationship had been built on obsession and manipulation, not love. She'd thrown away her life, her family, her freedom for a man who'd exploited her vulnerabilities. But by then, it was too late. Alessandro was dead. Cameron and Jordan were being raised by Alessandro's brother, both boys in therapy, both struggling with trauma. Cameron graduated from Arizona State University in 2023 with a degree in business. He established the Alessandro Romano Foundation, providing interest-free loans to immigrant entrepreneurs. On Cameron's wrist, every day, is his father's Patek Philippe watch, a reminder of what really matters: time, family, integrity, love. Jordan became a therapist specializing in trauma and family violence, helping children who've experienced betrayal by parents. Neither Cameron nor Jordan has visited their mother in prison. Neither has responded to her letters. In 2024, a journalist asked Cameron if he'd ever forgive his mother. "Forgiveness isn't something she's earned," he said quietly. "She's never taken responsibility." In her letters, she talks about how hard prison is, how she made a mistake. She didn't make a mistake. She made a choice. She chose Mitchell over my dad. She chose money over family. She chose murder over divorce. Those are choices that reveal who someone really is. And who my mother really is? She's a killer. That's her legacy. Detective Rachel Torres, now retired, still thinks about the case. The Romano murder stands out because of the betrayal. Alessandro trusted Vivienne completely. He never suspected anything, and that trust is what got him killed. It's a reminder that sometimes the most dangerous person in your life is the one closest to you. The case also serves as a warning about the dangers of obsession masquerading as love. Mitchell Crane convinced Vivienne their affair was destiny, that any obstacle, including Alessandro, needed to be removed. Two broken, narcissistic people found each other and convinced themselves that murder was justified. Now they're both in prison forever, their great love story reduced to monitored phone calls and censored letters. Alessandro Romano's legacy lives on through his sons, through the foundation that bears his name, through the dozens of entrepreneurs he mentored. His murder shocked the community, but it also revealed the depth of his impact. He was a man who lifted others up, who believed in second chances, who used his success to create opportunities for people who'd struggled. Vivienne's legacy is very different. She's a cautionary tale, a reminder of what happens when greed and lust override morality and family bonds. She had everything and destroyed it all. She'll die in prison, forgotten by her sons, remembered only as the woman who watched her husband die on camera. In the end, the Romano case is a story about choices and consequences. Vivienne chose Mitchell over Alessandro. She chose money over family. She chose murder over divorce. Those choices cost her everything. Meanwhile, Alessandro, who chose integrity, generosity, and family throughout his life, is remembered with love and honor. The case closed with all conspirators behind bars, justice served in the legal sense. But true justice, the kind that would bring Alessandro back, that would restore Cameron and Jordan's sense of safety, That kind of justice is impossible. All that remains is memory, legacy, and the lesson that the greatest danger often wears a familiar face and speaks in loving tones while plotting your destruction. Vivienne Romano will die in prison. Mitchell Crane will die in prison. Alessandro Romano died on his patio, betrayed by the woman who vowed to love him forever. And Cameron and Jordan Romano will live with that betrayal for the rest of their lives, carrying their father's legacy forward while trying to heal from wounds that may never fully close. That's the real horror of this case. Not the violence, though it was brutal. Not the conspiracy, though it was elaborate. The real horror is that a mother could do this to her children's father, that a wife could do this to her husband, that someone could watch another human being, someone they'd shared a life with for over 2 decades, die violently and feel nothing but anticipation for the insurance payout. She watched him die on camera, and she smiled.